Tony.
Hey gang, thanks for tuning in. It's the Castaway Friday Fish Fry podcast.
Brought to you by these fine sponsors. For Her Outdoor Apparel, Spot Choker, Lanier Gym Fishing, home of Lanier Baits.
This is welcome to Friday Fish Fry podcast number 4. We're just getting started here. And sorry about not having one for the last few weeks, but I've kind of been under the weather and I'm just kind of getting everything back to normal. So if you guys are joining us for the first time with the podcast, just to let you know a little bit about the podcast, it's me, Jimmy, and Jeff. We're just 3 old dudes that like to talk about fishing. So welcome to the podcast. I will let you know this about the podcast if you're just first joining us. On our podcast, I wanted to have a podcast where we didn't. It would be G-rated. Anybody can watch, and you don't have to feel like that we're gonna drop an F-bomb or something like that, or things are gonna get weird. We know that we've got an audience of high school kids and younger kids, and I just wanted to keep it kind of G-rated, so I can promise you that we're not going to be doing anything like cussing or anything like that on the podcast. We're just going to kind of keep it clean and talk about fishing mainly. And just to reintroduce my co-hosts here, on the end of the bar there, we've got Jeff Nail. And Jeff is a retired 20-year Army Airborne Ranger, and Jeff's a combat veteran too, and a good friend of mine. We've been hanging out together for a while, and I really like Jeff because Jeff's about the only one that I can share my warped sense of humor with, and he has the same warped sense of humor, so we get along pretty good on the boat, you know. Yeah, we can't talk too much about that, but we get along pretty good, and really give Jeff a lot of respect and really admire Jeff. He's a good dude, and happy to have him on the show. And also, we got Jimmy Sanders over here. Jimmy and I have been friends for I don't know how long, probably 10 years, something like that, I guess.
Probably longer than that.
Yeah, probably. Time goes by pretty fast. Jimmy, he's a combat veteran too, only Jimmy, he's been combating like old age and treachery for probably the last 20 years. But tonight's Jimmy's birthday, so we had a little birthday cake. I don't know if you could see it, it's back behind us, but before we started, we had a little birthday celebration for Jimmy. Looks like we didn't know how old Jimmy was. We got some 7s. We knew he was in his 70s, so Jeff just bought 3 7s, and we figured we'd get close. But Jimmy's, what, 76?
76, yeah.
Yeah, so Jimmy's 76 years old today, and keep in mind, this is actually Wednesday. This podcast won't come out till Friday, but you can still tell Jimmy happy birthday on the YouTube page if you want. I don't think he'd mind. So, happy birthday, Jimmy! Another trip around the sun and around the moon or around whatever it was. So
just glad to be on the right side of the grass.
There you go, man. So, and I'm Jim Farmer. I'm the host of the show, and I'm a retired Navy veteran, aviation electrician's mate, and aviation warfare specialist. And I'm kind of a combat veteran too, and I'm combating the devil every day. Sometimes he wins, sometimes I win. But anyway, we decided to put this thing together, and that's the host. And we got Jack back here, Jack Young. He's kind of my mentor when it comes to the podcast. Jack's kind of behind the cameras, but Jack does all of our technical stuff, and Jack has his own podcast too, and that's how I met Jack, through a podcast called The Seasoned Sportsman, and that's Jack's podcast. So if you find that on YouTube, check that out too, because Jeff, you were on Seasoned Sportsman.
Was.
Yeah, and I was on the Seasoned Sportsman. So that's how I met Jack. Jack's taught me a lot about podcasts. Taught us all a lot about podcasts, and we're kind of still learning the ropes here. So we don't have a lot of history on our podcast. We don't do the podcast for money, and we don't do it for likes, and we don't do it for subscribers or anything like that. We just do it because we like to talk about fishing, and more than anything, we like to help other people better fishermen too. So that's our goal here with the podcast. And every once in a while, we have guests if they want to come on, and we can con them into coming on. Tonight we got Robbie Williams from Spot Choker. So Robbie, I had asked Robbie to come on the show. Robbie's been making baits for a while, and his company's called Spot Choker, and we all use his baits. All of us have. Jimmy used them. Jeff, you use them a lot. I use them, and man, I used to buy them over there at that little dam store, but I don't think you have them there anymore, do you?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I wished we could have come up on agreement on that, but it's all good.
That's cool. I know how it is over there, and I think I bought most of yours anyway. Every time I went in there and they had them on the shelf, I was buying them.
Yep.
So
There's no hard feelings there.
yeah.
But,
So go ahead, Robbie, and tell us a little bit about Spot Choker, how you got started with that, and what you have there, what kind of bait you have, and give us kind of a rundown.
Well, I started out about 4 years ago fishing tournaments with Steve Anglin and my brother, and man, I had a hard time keeping the bait straight on some of the underspins that's out there.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I told Steve, I said, I'm going to make an underspin that runs straight. And he said, good luck with that. And I said something to my brother about that. And he goes, good luck with that. He said, the market's flooded with underspins. Mm-hmm. I went to work. I had 9 prototype moles made and had a guy up in South Carolina that made my moles for me. And when I got to the 9th one, I told him, I said, if you'll make this one more change, I think I'll be happy. He goes, are you sure? And I said, I think I will be. We made that one more change, and I was going to the lake a couple of times a week when I'd get a prototype in, and I'd take 4 or 5 rods with me, and I would cast them out, and I had everything from a 5-3-1 to a 10-1 Revo rocket, and I would burn a bait back.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to run straight, and they do.
Yeah. Now, this might be a secret of yours, and if it is, it ain't no big deal, but what'd you do to make it run straight? Is that like proprietary information? Or
No. Most everybody else's baits out there come to a point in the front.
Yeah, right.
Mine don't come to a point. If you'll see,
I know.
mine is rolled on the front.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm going to take this one out of the package. This is just a quarter, and it goes from quarter all the way up to half. I do a quarter, a 3/8, and a half. I do have a 5/8 mold, and some people special order the 5/8. But if you'll see, it's rounded on the front.
Yeah.
And that rounded on the front lets that water dissipate around the bait instead of getting from one side to the other, make the bait plain.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it runs straight.
I got you.
So, and they're machine mold. It's done on a CNC machine.
Okay.
So when I did that, I said, man, this is money. This is going to work. And so I started having molds made. I've got over 40 molds now.
Now, these are all CNC customs?
Yep, every one of my molds are custom made.
No kidding. You got somebody that's buddy over there that does the CNC work for you?
Yep, up in South Carolina.
Oh,
and
okay,
he is.
South Carolina.
I have got him to change stuff. I went to the pro model with the screw lock, and it has really made a big difference of keeping the Kytex on, something with a soft plastic full of salt. It holds that bait on. Well, when I first had the bait keeper made, we changed it around several times, and we got it so that it holds the bait really well. no super glue. It holds the bait unbelievably.
Yeah, it looks like it.
So come out next with the finesse just a few months ago. Now the new finesse is you can put it on the trickster baits that's got a really small head on the front. It doesn't let it blow out. Some of your other, like the Zoom original heads on the fluke, they're really small, they're tiny. It doesn't blow it out. Everything stays straight just like it should to help that bait run straight behind the spot choker.
Now, let me ask you this. When you say finesse, what's the difference between one of your regular ones and the finesse?
On the finesse, let's see here. The bait keeper here, I'll take this one out of the pack, and like if you take the regular, it's got a lot bigger shank here.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
So that shank on the finesse is half the size.
Okay.
So it's really small.
Oh, so the finesse is just a smaller shank.
On the bait keeper.
Does it still have the same little hook on the bait keeper?
It does.
Okay. All right. Good.
Look for another new spot choker coming out in a few weeks.
Okay.
It'll be for the Z-Man, that Elastec,
Oh, really?
to really hold it on.
What's can you tell us what the keeper is going to look like on that? Or
It'll have two keepers on it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's even better then. How about that?
It'll have two keepers on it.
Yeah, good.
So,
Well, I use a lot of the Z-Man baits, so that's good for me.
well, it'll still be on the finesse.
Yeah.
So you'll still be able to use the small stuff, but it'll have a wire coming out the top.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this, Robbie. You brought me some things over here. Have you started selling those yet?
They're not on the market yet.
They're not on the market. Can we talk about them
Yeah,
yet?
we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a spot choker, finesse.
Yeah.
It'll have a 1/0 hook with no crane swivel, no blade, no ball bearing on the bottom. Yeah. So you'll be able to get these real soon. I want to try to get like 1,000 of them made.
Okay.
So I can get them in all the stores. They'll come in a 3/8. They'll come in a quarter.
Okay, now this is the finesse 3/8 right here. I don't know if you could see that, but basically that's kind of the same head that Robbie's got for the underspin, only it doesn't have the underspin, and I think you've smoothed out the bottom a little
Yes,
bit, didn't you?
that mold is it doesn't have the place for the crane swivel on
Right.
the bottom.
Now, what size hook for the 3/8 is going to be?
You'll be able to get it in a 1/0 hook and a 2/0 hook.
So they'll have that selection, one or two.
Yep.
And then that's the 1/4 ounce. I had Robbie make me some of the 1/4 ounce so I can use those on my little swim baits with a 2/8 Kitech and some of Ryan's cast baits too. But I think for Ryan's cast baits, I'd rather use kind of the 3/8 like what we were using on Monday. But yeah, Robbie, I really like these. So that's another thing that you're coming out with.
Yep.
That's really
Those will be out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. And you can, I'll probably, before you come out with them, I'm probably, since you brought me those, I'll be out there on the lake using them over the next week or two. And I'm sure that I'm going to get some good fish on them too. So.
Well, I'm sure Tim will have them at Hammond's.
Yeah. Good.
And then I'm sure that all the other stores will follow.
Yeah.
It'll be a hot item, I promise you.
Yeah.
There's already been some fours caught on them.
Some fours? Mm-hmm. By who?
Who do you think?
Are you kidding me?
No.
You caught a 4 on one of these?
There you are getting left out again.
I know, man. You guys never tell
You
me
were
anything.
sick. Jeff got the juice.
Oh, man. It's like giant secrets that Jim don't need to know.
Well, if it's any consolation, it's the first time I've seen them too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, we talked about him yesterday.
Oh, I
over
got
the
chewed
phone.
out by Phil Johnson, too.
Oh, Phil hadn't got him yet?
No.
Oh, good job, Robbie. Good job. See, yeah. So
Oh, I got a good chewing for it.
I'll bet you did.
I did.
So, Robbie, getting back to your fishing, how long ago did you start making these and fishing? How many years ago was that?
I started them about 4 years ago.
And this is something that your dad, is this?
No,
No?
Dad poured plastic worms.
Oh, okay.
Dad
All right.
made Ranger bait. We poured plastic worms.
Yeah.
We poured about 30,000 a month, and I've got all Dad's stuff. Dad passed away in 2014.
I remember you told
But
me.
I brought everything to my house after my mom passed away 3 years ago to COVID. So she always wanted me to go down to the shop and make some plastics, and I never did. I left everything the way Dad left it.
Yeah.
But I've got it all at my house now, and I'm thinking about making some more plastics. I've got some great ideas that my mold maker's working on, and it'll be different than things that's on the market now. And I think it's really going to work good for the spot chokers. I
Now,
really do.
These are going to go along with the spot chokers, and
They'll be sold separately.
but they're going to be made.
They're going to be made for the spot chokers.
Would these be injection type or
Yeah.
hand pours?
No,
or
they'll be injected.
injected.
Yeah.
Okay.
My dad's machine that he built it's an injection machine.
Oh, he built his own injection machine. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Do you do any hand pours, or are they all just injectable?
Dad used to hand pour all the do nothing worms, the worms with hooks.
Yeah.
I still got those molds.
No kidding.
Yep.
Dang, that's older than dirt, man.
Yep.
That's going
the worms
back.
with hooks in them. The little 4-inch French fry worm.
Yeah.
I got them with a V tail. I got them with a curl tail. So I got some stuff that goes way back.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's good. I know. I used to inject. I got a hand injector. You know, the big. I got a small one, then I got a big one, and I used to do a lot of hand pours too. And like now, you know, it's a lot easier for hand pours because you can do it all in a microwave now. You know.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't need an injector if you got a hand pour. Just heat it a couple minutes in the microwave, stir it a little bit, add your color, just pour it right in there. I mean, it's easy to do. Man.
Mine's got a stir.
It stirs, that auto stir,
Yep.
yeah.
Keeps everything stirred. All the glitter's even that way.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good to know. So, you got all the different spot chokers. Where are you? So you got a website?
Yep, got the
Okay.
website.
And that's what?
www.spotchoker.com.
Okay. So you have guys that are selling them too in the stores?
Me.
Just
I'm the only one that travels and goes to all the stores, and
I mean, has Hammond's got them? Hammond's got them.
Hammond's has got the full line of spot chokers.
Anybody else selling them?
I'm in about 30 stores now.
Oakwood.
Yep.
You're in
And
Oakwood?
Oakwood, yep.
Okay.
Tackle Depot. B&M, D&M, TNW, Country Sportsman in Rome, the Tackle Box over in Gadsden, Alabama,
Yeah.
Mackenzie's in Villarica,
Okay.
Barn Store in they're in LaGrange. No, they're in Carrollton. They're in Carrollton.
I got you.
I got a couple of stores in LaGrange. So
You got a few in South Carolina, don't you?
I've got about 7 stores in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hartwell, Marine, and it's a regular tackle store there at the gas station, exit
Yeah.
14.
Yeah.
Before you get over to the big marina over there, where
Yeah.
they put on the big tournaments. They're right there.
Oh, I got you.
So
Good.
Calix Outdoors in South Carolina, they carry a lot.
You got them scattered all over the place.
I
then.
do.
All right. I was going to ask Jeff. Jeff, you've probably used spot chokers more than I have. I think I remember one trip you and I made out. I don't know, it was last early spring, late winter. You had on a spot choker and some kind of fluke, I think, and you were dragging that sucker on the bottom. You remember
Probably
that
It
trip?
was probably a Prodigy.
Yeah, I think it was a
Yeah,
Prodigy.
I used that's A Prodigy and an Echo are really the only two baits I really run on the back of a spot choker. And Benji's little 3-inch deal at times also.
So when you and I'm going to refresh your memory here, but you and I went out. We were out on the main lake. We were up around Three Sisters somewhere, and you'd had some fish hemmed up there. And you were using Robbie's spot choker with, I guess, the Prodigy. You were on the front of the boat. I was on the back. And I think you were dragging it on the bottom. But you like, smashed, like, I don't know, 3, 4 good ones on that spot choker. I'm in the back. I can't even remember what I'm throwing, but it was the wrong thing because you were the one. But I mean, I was just like, well, I hadn't used the spot choker hardly at all, and this dude's like going to town on the bass with this thing, dragging it on the bottom with this Prodigy. And I'm like, son of a gun. And not only was he smoking me down, it was like, I'm making casts. You got on Ryan's cast braid. He's like casting this thing 100 yards, and here I am. Mine's like dinking around. Seriously, I was about 30 yards. You're throwing that spot choker like 50, 60 yards, and that was just that braid, and the spot choker cast really well. But you really made a believer out of me. So I knew that they sold your spot choker over there at the dam store back when you sold them.
Yep.
So I went in there, and they had them kind of in the back of the store in the back there. And I was just looking around, and I knew they were there. And I went over there, and I was just like,
Oh, yeah. They used to carry a lot.
yeah, they did. And
Yep.
I bought just about every one of them, too, after I made that trip with Jeff. So, yeah, that's a bummer that they're not there anymore because I guess I'm going to have to go to Hammond's now and get them. So, anyway, that's been a good bait. And, when we get into the latter part of winter in the ditches, and these fish, like right now, it's 40, yesterday and today, 48, 49 out there, water temps. These fish are just laying down there. I mean, they're just laying down there.
Fish that thing like a worm.
That's the only way to do it. You just have to
Drag it,
slow.
let that blade sit there and tick.
Yep.
It makes noise. A lot of people don't realize that. I'll give it away a little juice.
Yeah.
Let that blade tick on the bottom a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And also, I notice, and this could be me, it's just something that I think about too, is the underspin blade. And you remember I told you that I like that bigger blade? I got a whole bag of them in there. But I think in the wintertime, they call it a 3.5 blade.
Yep.
That's what I call it, a 3.5.
That's a number 3 that I put on most everything.
Yeah. I think those fish sometimes see that blade and they mistake that blade for just a small shad. And so it's really not the head that's getting them so much as it's that blade that's getting them, And I experienced that. So when I first bought your spot chokers, one of the first things I did was I took that blade off and I put that 3.5, that 3.5 blade on there. And I went to town with that bigger blade on there. And I noticed you put some on there too after that.
And it still runs straight too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, that bigger blade creates a little more drag.
Right.
So it's going to, it's going to run straight with that bigger blade and more drag. So
Yeah, if you look on my Facebook page, I've got a little video on there that I was down at Lake Sinclair and done a little video down there, and that I was casting it out, reeling it in, and made that video with that thing on there with a bigger blade and show how it would run straight pulling that thing behind the boat.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I got no complaints, and you're right. A lot of these underspins, when you bring them through the water, the faster you bring them in, the more they're going to turn.
Yep. They'll roll up on their side.
Exactly. And I've always said this: you need a good bait presentation. No matter if it's a crankbait too. I mean, if that crankbait ain't tuned, well, you might as well just forget it because it's going to be doing these wheelbarrows.
Yep.
I mean, they're just going to go around. And the same with a underspin. If you don't have that thing tuned, the bottom, sometimes you have to bend that, that barrel swivel on the bottom to get it to run straight. But I know I fool with them a lot. But yours had always run straight, so that's one of the reasons I picked yours. So,
Well, I appreciate it.
yeah, it's good, good underspin, and I've got some more now.
Well, Jeff sent me a picture of one that he had been throwing, and it looked like it got drugged down behind the truck
Oh yeah,
Also-
I remember that. Yeah,
on the asphalt.
it wore all the paint off of
Well,
it, didn't it?
hitting bridge pilings.
Yeah.
It finally broke it.
Paint, eyeballs, lead. I mean, it was.
It was all shining.
There wasn't much left to it.
No.
So give me another application besides dead of winter, dragging it as slow as a three-toed sloth on the bottom.
You throw
is
it in the
there a
summertime.
time? Yeah,
Summertime.
Summertime, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, summer over brush.
Over brush, over the top of brush piles.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
You can use a forward-facing sonar bait and target individual suspended fish with it in the summer.
Yeah, yeah. That's something that I'm looking forward to is forward-facing sonar and throwing your bait to see.
It works.
Yep.
That's what I've heard.
It works good over brush. Last year, throwing the jerk shad over brush and topwater, I'd see the fish out there this one particular time, and I couldn't get them to react to anything.
Yeah.
Just so happened I had a spot choker tied on. I threw it over, counted it down, started reeling it back. First cast, 4 puss. Next cast, one as big as that one, but it jumped and threw it. But in 2 casts, I had over 8 pounds of fish on just by burning it over the brush.
Oh, that's cool. That's what you want to be able to do is burn that thing too.
And it'll also work in the summertime with suspended fish too. Like forward-facing sonar. Throw it out, count it down to where the fish is at, and about the time you get it to him, give it a little pop or a little quick reel handle, get a reaction bite. That'll put some fish in the boat too.
With forward-facing sonar. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, my fault.
Okay.
Yeah, live.
Okay.
Active target's what I got.
Target.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, yeah. I'm learning about all this stuff now. So, okay. Well, Robbie, one more time, your website.
www.spotchoker.com.
That's easy enough. And also, here in just a little bit, we're going to talk a little more about giveaways, but we've got some giveaways tonight, and Robbie graciously donated 10 packs, 10 of his packs of spot chokers. So Jeff's handling our giveaways, so Jeff's going to have those. Jeff's going to tell you a little later on how he's going to do that giveaway. But Robbie, we appreciate you being here. And we actually appreciate you being a sponsor too. I think you were Jennifer. It was you, Jennifer, and then LJ for our sponsors. So you were our number 2 sponsors. So, man, I'm glad to have you come over to the Castaway Man Cave and sit down with us for a little bit.
Glad to help out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to these little baits you gave me, and I'm going to be throwing them next week for you, and hopefully we got some video and some pictures, and I'll give you a good report. But definitely, Robbie, I appreciate you coming here, and if you guys want to get a hold of Robbie, you can go to the website, or you contact me, and I'll tell you how to get into contact with Robbie, but it's Spot Choker Baits. And thanks again, Robbie, for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, so Robbie just headed on out the door there. I can see him on my camera. But glad to have Robbie here, one of our main sponsors, one of our only main sponsors. But after Robbie left, we figured we'd talk a little bit about fishing and what's going on out here on the lake next. And Jeff's been fishing a lot more than I have. Like I said, I've been kind of off the lake for the last 28 days in a wake up, and I had asked Jeff to take me out Monday just to kind of make sure I could still fish, and I hadn't forgot how yet, and I hadn't. But Jeff and I went out on Monday, and I kind of suspected what we were doing, what we were going to do, and what we did do. It wasn't if you remember, I brought 3 rods with me.
Right.
And,
That's all you need this time of year.
Yeah, but those 3 rods, one was a spoon,
Yep.
one was a swim bait,
Yep.
and the other one was worm.
Yep.
And that's all I need. They were all spinning rods. So I meet Jeff. We take off. I can't even remember. Oh, we stayed in the creek in Young Deer for a while.
Because we were both like little frozen popsicles.
Yeah, it was pretty cold Monday morning. Yeah, if I remember. So we hung out in the creek and kind of. I think Jeff kicked us off with swim bait fish. I was kind of chunking the worm because that's my deal, chunking the worm. And Jeff whacked 1 or 2 with a swim bait, so I switched over to swim bait. But and then that's mainly how we caught them was the swim bait. Is that what you've been doing for weeks now, or what's your mode of operation?
It's been a swim bait bite now for, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's been, 80 to 90% swim bait,
Yeah.
10% worm and jig, 10 to 20% worm and jig.
Okay. Any
That's-
jerk bait action, anything like that? No.
I haven't needed to pick it up, and
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say I had a lights out January, but I had a better January than I had last year, and I had a January that 3 years ago, if you would have told me this is what you would do in January, I'd have laughed at you and I wanted to know what you were selling because it was some pretty good stuff.
Yeah. All right.
So I mean, I'm not complaining one bit.
So right now it's what, the 30th of January?
31st.
31st of January. And have you got your numbers for January total?
I do. I've got it close.
Do
off
you?
the top of my head. Yeah, I don't
Tell
remember
me.
if it's saved in there or not.
Let's see it.
I averaged, that's the last calculation in here, I averaged 12.9130453 fish a day.
You got that narrowed down pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So-
right. Well, that's yeah.
That was my average.
So
I
you
think-
must have had good days and bad days.
Yeah,
I mean,
had-
it's not like
No, I didn't do that every single day. I had some days where I was 20 to 30, and I had some days where I was, right around 5.
But 20 to 30 days, pretty much all swim bait,
All swim bait.
dragging it on the bottom.
Yeah, and a lot of those days I would have, 3, 4, 15 to 16 pound bags within that level. So it's, separate fish. A ton of 3-pounders this winter. Bunch of 3-pounders.
I'm telling you, man, our day was just riddled with 2 to 3 pounders.
Yep.
I can't remember how many we caught, but most of them were swim bait fish, and it was mainly oriented to the ditch, maybe not straight up in the deepest part of the ditch.
And
but-
I've found that for the last going close to a week now, or ever since we got that real warm rain last week. Since
Yeah.
then, I've found them more on the sides rather than in the guts
Yeah.
of the ditches, and that's been
that's kind of
for
par
about
the
a week.
course.
That's been consistent, and that's probably the way it'll start going as we get into February. I expect to find more on the sides and more all the way in the backs, and less out there on the timber edges. At least for the ones I'm going to target.
Yeah, and I think that's indicative of, well, maybe a week or two on down the road when we get a little more of a warming trend. But, these fish right now, to me, are kind of just, they're not quite ready to go pre-spawn stage. Not yet. So they're just kind of chilling. They're just kind of chilling in the ditches, around the ditches. They may run up and down the side of a ditch, and they're chasing bait, basically, if they want to chase bait. But right now is water temp 48, 49, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing 47 on Garmin and right at 50 on Lawrence. As of yesterday, I didn't go out today.
Yeah, so we can kind of safely say that we're in the upper 40s.
Yes.
And I would call this the dog days of winter because the fish are still, they're not moving around a whole lot. They're chilling. They're getting ready to maybe next full moon. They're going to start coming out and staging a little bit on the warmer days, the sunny days. And they're going to start thinking about looking around for something to eat as they warm up. But right now, I think Jeff and I have talked about this before. I think we've unless something crazy happens, we've kind of bottomed out as far as the water temp is concerned. The days are getting longer. We've got some warm days ahead of us. So I can't see the temperature dropping anymore unless we get like back-to-back Arctic fronts coming through here, but I doubt that.
No, we would need it for 7 to 14 days, and I mean, even if we have a blast, we're not going to have a 7 to 14 day blast that's going to bring that water temp down to the mid to low 40s again. I think we've crossed the hump.
I think we have, and this is to me, this is an El Nino year. I don't know.
It is,
you guys, and you've just when we have an El Nino year, and I wrote about this in my last report, which was more than a month ago. I think it was December the 30th was my last report. But this is an El Nino year, and I kind of identified that by the amount of rain. We're just getting back to back to back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I think they call that the Pineapple Express. I mean, this stuff comes all the way from Hawaii down through the southern states, and it eventually hits us. So when you have an El Nino year, you're probably not going to have a lot of really super cold weather because you've always got, some of that warmer air from the south that just keeps getting pushed through here. So I really don't expect the water temps to go any lower. I think we're going to kind of stall here for a little bit, and then we're going to see a gradual climb, especially looking forward and looking at the weather predictions going forward. It's all 50s and 60s on down the road. I don't see any really cold temps. So with that being said, probably the fish before too long are going to start coming out of them ditches. The bigger ones are going to start thinking about spawning, and they're going to start thinking about eating a lot more.
Worm and jig time.
Worm and jig time, and also something else to think about. And these fish aren't exactly stupid. They kind of know when the crawfish are going to spawn again.
Crankbait.
Yeah, crankbait is another one, I mean, crankbait is always a good choice. And I know, Jimmy, you and I used to throw a lot of crankbaits.
Yep.
6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. Yep. Speaking of that, I don't know if you guys seen this. The green slime is back.
It's back.
It's back.
Well, the water came back up. We didn't have that green slime when the water was down 8 feet. You didn't have to worry about it. But now since the water, it's like everything I'm throwing now is coming back green. And I was like, God, I got that green snot on there again. But I think that it's worse now than it was before. The water dropped. But man,
How does that green slime grow in 35 feet of water?
I don't really know. I mean, it has to have sunlight, It's sort of photosynthesis kind of thing, I guess. But I don't know why it came back when the water temp's 48 degrees, but it's back with a vengeance in places I've never seen it before. Like yesterday, I hit all my big fish holes, and that stuff was everywhere every time I turned around, But I fished a lot of rocks just to see what was on the rocks. The only thing on the rocks right now was green slime. There wasn't hardly any big fish on the rocks. So that told me right there. They know that there ain't no crawfish around there right now. It's too cold for the crawfish. But you can expect the crawfish to spawn again when that water temp hits about 52, something like that. And they'll come back up on the rocks, and plus they'll be back up there to, because they'll be pre-spawn staging, So all we got to do is just make it a few more weeks, and then we're going to get into that pattern. But for right now, it's mainly swim bait around the ditches and that kind of thing. So
dragging a worm. But, I mean, for me, the worm is, and specifically a jig, is like makes a swim bait look like power fishing because you have to fish it so slow. I mean, you fish a swim bait slow, but that worm and jig bite makes that swim bait bite look like you're power fishing, and you got to fish it so slow. I mean, it's like
everything. And another thing I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight, and I brought a couple examples here, is and you can check my YouTube page. You go back to my YouTube page. You go back to last year, maybe the year before, and look at some of them videos in late January and February, and you're going to see just a few of these, and this is a Ned rig. When it gets its coldest, like right now, these fish, sometimes they don't like to hit the big stuff anymore. Like a good example is Z-Man worms. I'll fish at Z-Man Zinker. It's 5 inches. And I'll fish that a lot when we're getting into winter and coming out of winter. And that's a 5-inch bait. When we start getting into like the meat of winter, I'm fishing the big TRD, which is a 4-inch bait. But then when it gets to the coldest part, like right now, water temps 48, below 50, when they're not up on the rocks, they're not meat eating, they're not looking for crawfish and gizzard shad and all that stuff. They want to eat the small stuff. If you look at my YouTube page, you're going to find that I'll switch over to the Ned rig, and I've made videos on the Ned rig. Last year, I think my favorite Ned rig to use was K-Bad, Kevin Badgett. He made a Ned rig that was emerald green. And I made a few videos of that one. But the Ned rig is something that I fish when the water temp bottoms out like it is now. And the bass, they just don't want to move around a lot, but they want to eat the smaller stuff. So that right there, that's one of K-Bad's little Ned rigs that I use. And there's several here. I also use a Z-Man. This one's kind of a crawfish color, and I like to use that. That's a Z-Man little TRD. And I put that on a Ned rig. Also, I have Benji, Trickster Baits. He makes a pretty cool little, what do they call that?
Dinky.
Dinky. Yeah, Benji makes this little dinky. Look at that little sucker right there. It's pretty stiff, but it's got that little tiny tail that's got a lot of action in it. And when I'm, sometimes I like to throw the dark ones, sometimes I like to throw the light ones. So, like I got K-Bad's light one here that I'll throw, and then I got the little dinky from Trickster Baits. And there's another one that Benji makes. Check this out here. Benji makes this one. This is Hollow Green Shiner. But a lot of guys like this one too, and he makes a bigger bait in this pattern, doesn't he?
Yeah, he puts a lot of his tricky shats in that color.
Yeah,
it's
but
real
look
popular
at that.
in the summer.
Look at that. That's got a lot of flash to it. But I didn't know that Benji had these, but that's another one. And Benji's got, if you don't know, Benji has Trickster Baits. You can see his little logo there. But speaking of Benji, I don't want to forget this. Not getting off the Ned rig subject, but yesterday when I was out, I caught a couple really good fish. And when I was out with Jeff on Monday, Jeff was showing me some of Benji's stuff that he had, and I noticed that Benji had this little low jig head, a little Damiki head.
Yeah, he calls it his kamikaze head.
Kamikaze head. So I'm a big Damiki guy too. I love Damiki heads. And he had this kamikaze head, and Jeff, you had 2 of them in a bag and a 1/4 ounce. Well, I'm a big 1/4 ounce guy too. I saw 3/8 stuff, but I passed on a 3/8. I wanted 1/4 ounce. So Jeff had 2 of them. So he gave me the 2 1/4 ounce, and you gave me some other stuff too. But Jeff gave me. I noticed that there was 2 of those in there, and I was like, yesterday morning when I went out, I had those 2, and I just had to tie it on because that Damiki's my favorite. Had those big eyes on there. That's what does it. It's the big eyes. A lot of people don't know that, but when you have a Damiki and it's got that big round eye to it, that's what you want. I don't know. I'm not a big color guy when it comes to Damikis, but I took one of Benji's little kamikazes, 1/4 ounce, put that on there with a 2/8 Kitech. I went in the back of this ditch. And there was a dock that was out pretty far into the cove, into the ditch. And actually, the dock was sitting on top of the ditch.
Yep.
And I got really excited about that. One reason I got excited about it is because my buddy Jeff Williams and I were fishing a tournament a few years back. And right where I was at, that same dock that sits in that ditch, Jeff caught a 5-pounder out of that while we were in a tournament, and I never forgot that. And that's that ditch and that dock has always kind of been special to me. So, anyway, I got that little kamikaze head, 1/4 ounce kamikaze head. Put a 2.8 Kitech on there, one of my favorite color Kitechs, bluegill flash, and threw it up in front of that dock and let that sucker sink. As soon as it hit the bottom and I started to move it, I felt a big pop. And I was so excited because keep in mind, I hadn't really fished. I fished with you on Monday, but we didn't catch any big ones over 4 pounds. And I felt that pop, and that pop felt like it was a 4-pound pop. So I was set the hook too early. You know, you got to kind of give it that pause. You know, when you feel that pop, lower it before you raise it. You know, you got to let him suck that thing in there real good. But I was so excited. I swung and a miss, probably jerked it right out of his mouth. I was just that quick. So I'm like, man, that was a 5-pound pop there. So I bring it in and I throw it right back out there, and I'm just saying, please hit this thing again. Please hit it again. I started dragging it across the bottom, and I get about 3 or 4 drags, and I didn't think it was going to happen. And all of a sudden, popped it again. Another big pop, you know. So this time I gave it a second, and I gave it that second, lowered the rod tip, reeled down on it, set the hook on that, and that was the first one I caught. So easy. If you'd seen my post yesterday, that was the first one in the picture. So get that one off, and I'll tell you what I did. I didn't want to put it in a live well, so I didn't want to release it right there either, because these fish tell their friends. You know?
Yeah, it doesn't work out well for you.
No, it doesn't. So I take that fish, took a couple pictures. I went way out far away. And then that gave everything a chance to settle down in the ditch too, you know. So there was multiple reasons for doing that. But I took that fish way far away, took my pictures, and then released it, and then kind of messed around and came back to the ditch. And I made that same cast again and drug that thing, and actually right after I started dragging it, felt that pop again. And that was that second big fish. There was not one, but there was 2 of them in there. So do the same thing. Get that one to the boat, take a couple pictures, take it way out there, chill out a little bit, you know, get my heart rate down a little bit, and go back in there. And I threw it in that same spot again, and wouldn't you know it, another pop. And I was just like, I can't believe it. Maybe I'm going to get 5 big ones out of here. But I get that one to the boat, and it was your typical 2-pounder. And after that, there wasn't any more. I didn't catch any more. But that was not, it was in the ditch, but I call it the ditchy dock fish because it had to do with both those elements, the dock and the ditch.
Right.
So I guess if there's a moral to the story, if you can find a ditch where you're getting way back in there, and this was in 15 feet of water, by the way. So mid-afternoon, everything was warmed up. Probably those floats, those black floats were warm. They were probably hanging around that dock, you know. But they might have been right under the black floats and seen that Demiki go down. But the moral of the story is that if you can get that combination of dock and ditch together, well, you're probably going to do pretty good this time of year. And those 2 big fish that I got yesterday was a testament to that. So that was my 2 big ones yesterday on the swim bait and his little kamikaze, 1/4 ounce kamikaze. So that was yesterday. And you were out yesterday, and how'd you guys catch your fish yesterday, Jeff?
Swim bait and shaky head.
Shaky head?
And swim bait. Swim bait ruled the roost, and shaky head coughed up. Shaky head actually produced the 2 bigger fish.
Really?
Yeah.
Bigger than swim bait?
Yesterday, yes.
I'll be darned. Well, good deal. Well, I think that, like I say, we're probably going to continue on with the swim bait thing. And also, I wanted to tell you guys, too, there's crankbait bite right now. I'm not the one that's catching them, but I've been told by other people that other people are catching them. And I'm going to tell you 2 popular colors that you can catch fish, and especially since the water is kind of stained right now. It's stained up north pretty bad, isn't it?
Big time.
Yeah, that doesn't really stop the fish from biting. You just might have to change some things up because really they can't, if it's stained, like really, really stained, the slower stuff that doesn't make a lot of noise is probably not going to do really well. You know, the swim bait, you're always dragging bottom, but your crankbaits, when you've got like that, I don't know if you can hear that. There you go. Hear that? That's this is my little 1.5. That color is a great color. I've caught a lot of fish on my 1.5. That's a chartreuse color, but that's one color you want to throw right now is the chartreuse. The other one is, you know, we're getting into that time of year where it's the fire shad, fire this, orange, red. You know, you start looking at some of these bass that have red lips. Why, that's this is what you want to throw. It match their lips, you know. Look at some of them bass, and especially largemouth will get like that this time of year. And the reason they get those red lips is because they're eating stuff on the bottom, and their lips are getting worn down from them smashing stuff. But when their lips turn red, or it gets into February, we start hitting 50 degrees. Well, you want to throw your red stuff. A few years ago, when they had the Bassmaster Elite Series here, there was a lot of guys that were throwing the red crankbaits and doing real well on the shallow stuff. So you don't want to rule out those crankbaits. So that's another thing. One thing I did want to say about these little Ned rigs is I use this. This is a Nedlock Z. This is, I guess it's 1/5. They don't have like quarter ounce.
No.
They have like 1/5, 1/6, 1/7.
1/10.
Yeah. They don't go by weight. Well, I guess it is a weight.
Yeah,
but,
they just did their own thing to kind of stick out from.
Yeah, so this is a Nedlock Z, and this is a 1/5 5-pack. And I always like the 1/5. I don't know, it weighs close to a quarter. That's why I get it. But it's got a pretty good keeper on it, too. So once again, it's the Nedlock Z, made by Z-Man. And I don't have a weed guard. I don't use a weed guard. I never have. This is linear. A lot of your stuff here, you don't need a weed guard. I think a weed guard is kind of counterproductive. I think when you use that weed guard and the fish, you know, they're real lethargic and they're just barely nibbling or barely sucking on stuff, they might feel that weed guard sometimes. So as long as you're not throwing into heavy cover or anything like that, if you're throwing into clear, you know, pretty clear stuff like around docks, I like to throw this thing around docks more than anything. And if I know there's not a lot of structure around that dock, then I'll use that 1/5 little Z-Man thing. So that's all of that. And let's see, Jeff, what else you got for us? Anything else?
That's all the good stuff.
That's all the good stuff. Jimmy's been kind of on a sabbatical. You've been taking a little break. You're
Yeah.
kind of like me. You've been kind of under the
Yeah,
weather.
I've been under the weather too, but next week's going to change.
Good. Jimmy's going to get back out there. I
will have to say, though, I didn't have to wait long to catch my first 4-pounder this year. Riding shotgun with Jeff, the only time I've been out, it was a 4. It didn't take me long to catch my first 4 anyway.
What'd you
so.
catch it on?
Swim
Secret
bait.
stuff?
Swim
Some
bait.
secret stuff?
Swim bait.
Swim bait?
Yeah.
Okay.
2.8.
Good. At least he wasn't keeping. You guys always keep stuff from me, so I was glad that he told me that. So here's the deal. Just to let you guys know, I didn't fish for 28 days because I had started out with a sinus infection. I know a lot of people been sick too. You know, everybody's getting flu and all this stuff. Mine started out as a sinus infection. Couldn't get rid of it. Went through 2 rounds of antibiotics, different kind of antibiotics, and I just couldn't shake it. It just kept coming back. Then it went down and it got into my lungs, and then I got bronchitis real bad. I had a bad case of bronchitis. Had to take a real heavy antibiotic, and anti-inflammatories. Just, it's a bad feeling when your lungs just get full of fluid, and it's hard to clear that stuff. So I've had pneumonia 3 times, and I was hoping that I didn't have it again. And luckily, it was just a bad case of bronchitis, and it takes me a little while to get over that. So I was tired, weak, dizzy for a while, but when I went out with Jeff on Monday, it was kind of a test to make sure that I was able to get out there and get up and down in the boat and not fall out of the boat and get dizzy, and I felt real good. So I think I'm kind of running about 95% now, so I'm back on the lake. A couple of things that I did want to make as announcements. Number one, I'm getting a new boat. Don't know what I'm getting yet. I'm looking at, I think I've got it narrowed down to 3, but every one of them has forward-facing sonar on it already. So I will have forward-facing sonar before long. One of the reasons I'm getting the boat is because kind of I want a new boat.
You want a boat?
Yeah, exactly. But Mama said, yeah, you could get a new boat and everything's going to be cool as long as you can pay for it. So with that being said, I got to generate a little bit of income to make the boat payment. So I'm going to start guiding again, probably right around March 1st. So I think I kind of hope it coincides with when these fish start staging. It should be about that time when they start staging. So I think at that point I'm just going to run a few trips. I'm not going to do anything heavy. Maybe a trip or 2 a week just to kind of make the boat payment. And also I've got a new paint booth on the way, and I'm going to start painting a few baits too. I like painting hard baits, and so there's a lot of pretty cool hard bait blanks out there, and so I'm going to paint some more of them in my little paint booth when I'm not out there fishing. And I'll probably put a few of those up for sale, and you can look for a few of those in the near future, probably in just a couple weeks. Well, I've got a lot of blanks in my shop that I just don't know what to do with, so I'm going to throw a coat of paint on them. I might even get Jimmy over here to help me again.
I remember that, working for crankbaits. Yeah. That's when you was in the other house.
Jimmy and I kind of worked something out. I was painting hard baits, and Jimmy would come over and help me, and I'd throw him a bone with the hard baits. But that's another thing is we got giveaways. Another thing, got that announcement out of the way. I think that's all good now. But Jeff's going to handle our giveaways, and Jeff, first giveaway that we have was donated by Jeff. I had asked Jeff, and he's got one giveaway for us. And what is that, Jeff?
I have a 7-foot medium fast St. Croix Mojo spinning rod.
Spinning? Mm-hmm. Not casting.
Nope, spinning. 7-foot medium fast spinning rod. So it's a fluke, a shaky head, spot choker. Those 3 things are probably what it's best at. Yeah.
What would you use it for, Jimmy? If you had
jerk shad or a shaky head.
Would you use a jerk shad with that?
I throw a medium fast now for jerk shad, but it's a custom built rod, and it's 7.2 and 7.3.
7.2 and 7.
But 7 foot is what I fished before this, and it's plenty of rod.
Good rod for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So the rod's brand new. I don't know if it still has the tags on it, but it is brand new. I've never used it.
Cool.
I bought it and stuck it in the corner, and it was one of my backup rods, so we'll use it.
I hear you. You don't use spinning as much as I use spinning either, do you?
It depends on the time of the year. This time of the year?
Yeah.
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 I mean, I got a callus on my hand.
From it. You were showing me that earlier.
So, yeah.
Pretty much all spinning right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you throwing a bait caster at all?
I mean, I got a spoon on a bait caster and a jig on a bait caster.
Okay. Yeah, I got to have the jig on the bait caster.
Yeah.
You throwing bait caster at all, Jimmy?
Yeah, and it's got a jig tied on it.
Jig?
It's only bait caster that has been on the deck lately, and it's a jig.
Yeah.
I just don't like to throw a jig on a spinning rod.
Yeah, I hear you.
But anything else, I mean, other than summertime and throwing a big topwater, I normally throw a jerk shad on a spinning rod.
Cool.
But I also use that good cast braid where I can
I know.
sling it way out there.
Man, that stuff is like.
Yeah.
I got it on all my rods now, man. I can't see going to anything else.
No, I think I'm at probably 80% of clients that come in the boat order that stuff within 24
Dude, you
to 48
made
hours.
a believer out of me.
Me too.
Oh gosh, I mean, I'm sitting in the boat with him. Was it a couple of years ago? Yeah, maybe it was late last year, and we were out there throwing a jerk shad.
Yeah.
And he's sitting on the front of the boat going like this, and it's going.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting back there going,
know.
and getting about half the distance.
Well, that's partly because his arms are like 4'7". Too.
Yeah, and he's
It's
9
like-
foot tall too.
Right. Yeah. His arms are like tree branches, but. Okay, before I forget, a couple other things before we sign off tonight. I've donated 5 of these. This is a glide bait. I made these. I picked these up not too long ago, but I painted them my emerald green color, and I also painted a white pearl, and I used these last year, both this emerald green and I used the white pearl glide bait, and so I've got 5 of those that I'm going to give away, and that's a Castaway 4-inch glide bait in the emerald green. So that's going to be donated. So got 5 of these glide baits, and Spot Choker gave us 10 of his Spot Choker packs.
Right, we'll pair those up. There'll be 5 of those together. So why don't we just do the glide bait and then 2 of those just for simplicity's sake.
Okay.
And it'll be 5 tackle giveaways and then 1 rod.
Yeah.
And I think what we'll do for the rod is we will post this on Facebook. So every share of this episode on Facebook will get entered into the rod drawing.
Cool.
I think for the baits, we'll just do something as simple as, like and comment on that video, on the original video post, not all the crazy shares, but the original video post, and you'll be entered for the baits, and we'll select 5 of those at random for the baits.
All right. Well, I'll let you handle all that, and Jeff will kind of get us all going with that. And man, I wish I could enter to win that rod, but I won't. So we got that.
Oh, we can't enter?
I'd like to.
No.
No. That's okay. We won't do that. Next episode 5, we've already got our guests lined up for that. That's going to be all females, 4 females. Jennifer from For Her Outdoors is going to be here, and her granddaughter Peyton is coming too. Peyton, I don't know, what's she, junior, senior?
She is senior.
Senior
Yep,
this year.
she's a senior.
She is a fisherwoman, and also wrestles, doesn't she?
She does for West Forsyth.
She wrestles, and does she fish for a high school team?
At West Forsyth also.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah, I think so. So Jennifer and Peyton are going to be here. We're going to pick their brains a little bit, especially Peyton, to see how she's doing. It's not very often we get to talk to female wrestlers, so this will be our first. But they'll be here, and then Jeff's wife, Janet, will be here. And Lisa, my wife, Lisa, is going to be here too. So we're going to rotate. We're going to hot seat 4 different women here. We'll probably talk to Jennifer and Peyton first, and then we'll have Lisa and Janet come in, and they'll probably talk a little bit about what it's like being married to a couple idiots. I mean, we'll probably talk about fishing a little bit, but yeah, we're going to pick their brains a little bit. Both Lisa and Janet are good fishermen. Probably not before we met them. They probably got all that from us.
Yeah, definitely on the freshwater side.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk to them a little bit and see how they feel about fishing. Maybe we can get Lisa and Janet to tell us a couple of their secrets, because they're also good fisher people too. So thanks for tuning in, and I think maybe we'll do another one in 2 weeks, but we kind of owe y'all some, so since we had this big gap, so we might even do it before that. So we'll just have to wait and see. But Be sure and check out Jeff and the Facebook and the giveaways, and he's going to do more of that on your Facebook page.
Yeah, so I'll probably do this from the Jeff Nell Fishing and Guide Service page and
That
share
way
it.
everybody can.
Yeah, and it's open. You don't have to be a friend with me, and it'll be easier to share. And like I said, the only thing, just for simplicity's sake on our side, is all the comments for the baits need to be on that particular post.
Yeah.
But you can share it as many times, and I'll get a notification for every single share, regardless of who shares it. And the shares will be entered into the rod drawing, and then the comments will be entered into the bait drawing.
All right, cool. Cool beans. So we'll see you next time. And guys, thanks for coming. Jack, thanks for coming over and hanging with us through this whole thing. And we'll be back with number 5 very soon. Thank you.